So, it's been only a couple of days since the Flash movie came out and it's already being bombarded and criticized to oblivion by the audience, making it a flop after it's released. But is it really that bad, as the internet says? I actually have some interesting thoughts about it. Also, this video will have spoilers for the movie. So, if you haven't watched the movie and want to avoid them, come back after watching it. If you still want to watch the video despite this, then stay with me, because we are going to talk about it. Roll the intro. So, before we begin, I'd like to say that we have reached 100 subscribers on this channel, and I am so happy for that. Yeah! From literally having only 14, a hiatus of doing absolutely nothing and posting videos that did not get the track that I would have liked, to having 100 people subscribe to the channel is the best milestone I've ever achieved so far. So, thank you for that. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, please do it so we can make it grow even bigger, so I can actually make it my job and not get kicked out of my apartment. Anyway, back to the video. So, The Flash, a beloved character from the DC universe portrayed by Ezra Miller, a very infamous human being due to multiple controversies including violence, public disrupt and grooming? I don't even... Seriously, I can't even. Yeah, without getting too much into detail, all I'm going to say is that it's impossible to morally defend Ezra Miller after hearing about these incidents. And that's a shame because from my personal opinion, I can say that Ezra's performance in this movie was great. Yeah, it's a compelling character with a lot of development and relatable motivations and attitude that justifies the weird behavior in previous films. You actually get to see why Barry is the way he is and why he acts the way he does. This gets solidified by the contrast of his present self when confronting his past self, showing how he needs to deal with an infantile, childish and irresponsible young adult that never had to face the traumas of his former self. But before digging deeper into Ezra's performance and the character's development, we need to talk about the obvious. The CGI of this movie. I'm going to rip off the band-aid immediately and agree with the audience on this one. The CGI of this movie is really bad. Looking like a claymation lots of the time and simply not fitting with the rest of the movie. But my complaints not always align with what other people say, for you see, this image is what people go after when talking about the horrible special effects of this movie. This scene in particular does not look bad in my opinion, especially when you understand the context for it. My issue is in other scenes, like at the beginning of the movie. We see Barry being late for work and receiving a call from Alfred telling him that Batman needs his help to save the people from a collapsing hospital from dying. Barry puts on his suit and proceeds to rush to the place where he needs to be, and the sequence of this scene looks bad. Like, really bad. Green screen, rotoscope, bad. I think that my main concern is with the running animation, which doesn't seem to be 100% understood by the animators of this movie. And that's a shame because in a later scene, when Barry actually gets into the multiverse dimension, the running cycle looks phenomenal. Until he starts running like Phoebe Buffay from Friends again.
Come on, let's start running, let's go!
This is present in most of the scenes as well, just like in the fight versus General Zod, the collapsing hospital and many more. But when Barry gets into the multiverse dimension, people complain about how plasticky it looks, and I don't blame them. However, I do believe that it doesn't look as bad in here since it feels abstract and eerie in a way, giving it more of a vibe rather than a look. But in that regard specifically, to each their own I suppose. Also, the scenes with Batman, both Batmans I say, or is it Batman? Look impeccable in the majority of the film. Both Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton deliver the most memorable scenes in my opinion. Well, with that said, what about their characters? So, we've got the obvious return of Michael Keaton as the Tim Burton's Batman from 1989, which even though seemed like a really easy-to-go fan service, I expected the worst by being cringe, forced or even misplaced in this movie. But you know what? He's really good. He actually steals the show. He delivers one-liners that for other characters would feel either out of place or stupid. But for some reason, Michael Keaton delivers them perfectly. Every action scene with him feels natural, well-developed, and they do something I love about this movie. He gets beaten a lot. And I mean he struggles a lot of the times but still manages to execute really good sequences. There's also a lot of nods from the original Batman movies, like a scene where they are all in the Batcave and the young version of Barry finds a laughing bag, referencing the Joker's death in the first Batman movie. Overall, Michael Keaton steals the show in this movie and every single scene that he was in. I could not help but have a little smile on my face, like saying internally, okay, you know what? You got me there. That was actually good. We also have Supergirl, who I thought was gonna be misplaced or poorly developed. I also thought that she was going to be overused and overpowered, breaking the core of this movie, but she also surprised me a lot. She does not have a lot of screen time, but when she's there, she actually delivers, and my only complaint with her was that she did not have too much screen time to begin with. Yeah, can you imagine? A character that would normally feel misplaced actually left me wanting to see more of her. Who would have thought? Sasha Cale did a great performance in my opinion. They actually explain in the story that Jor-El sent her to protect Superman and that her job was to make sure that he was safe. Instead of landing in a place where she could take care of him, she gets trapped in a facility that keeps her underwhelmed and captive. For what reason specifically? That's the weak point of this movie. They never truly explain it. But still, her character does not feel out of place at any moment, and her motivations and short character development left me wanting to see more of her. And just like that, the main character developments of this movie are the two versions of Barry Allen. Both characters face interesting moments that force them to either be a bit more flexible or more serious depending on the situation. And it's great to see that contrast in a character that was very poorly used in the Justice League to begin with. Also, maybe I've become softer or something. But aside from the beginning of the movie, I did not feel the humor of this movie forced. Of course, there are a lot of jokes here and there, but at least to me they never felt like a bombardment from the modern Marvel era. They felt like genuine conversations and situations that would happen if we found ourselves in those situations. Again, that does not apply to the beginning of the movie, which is the weakest point. Now, there are more characters in the movie like Barry's parents, Iris, General Zod and others that stand on their own for different reasons. And talking about them will only be explained throughout my next point. The plot. Listen, this movie is nothing like the Flashpoint Paradox comic book or animated movie. That's for sure. If you want a much better adaptation of that, I would suggest you to go and watch the animated movie instead. Now, I'm not going to say it's not a shame they did not do that, because we clearly had a glimpse of that in Batman vs Superman, where Jeffrey Dean Morgan played Thomas Wayne and Lauren Cohan played Martha Wayne, who became Batman and the Joker in the Flashpoint Paradox. And I would have loved to see these incarnations too. With that said, this movie grabs certain aspects of the Flashpoint Paradox and creates its own thing combined with the established world of the DC Extended Universe. With that said, you need to create your own fictional pact and accept that it's its own thing. If you can, then you may like this movie. If not, then do not even bother. Now, did I enjoy the movie myself? I actually did. And this comes from a guy that stopped caring after the Snyder Cut was released, because I could see the potential of the DC Extended Universe, but never managed to see it fully realized. So imagine my surprise when I actually found myself enjoying this movie, despite the CGI. There are genuine moments where you empathize with the characters. Barry's interaction with his mother feel authentic and wholesome. The moments where future Barry needs to adapt to his younger self, Keaton's Batman getting back into the game after so many years of not fighting crime and doing the best he can to assist the two lost young men, and Supergirl's despair for feeling that she failed her mission to protect her cousin, as well as losing hope for humankind after knowing how they treat her species. You feel the impact of these characters on this movie, and none of them feel like extras or out of place. The same can go for Barry's interaction with his mother, his father, and General Zod is great as always. The way the story develops even shows the consequences of feeling desperate to change the timeline to fulfill your objectives, and this is where it gets interesting. So, if you really want to avoid spoilers, you better quit this video because here is the banger. Barry can't change the outcome of this universe. In the final arc of this movie, it is shown that both Supergirl and Batman die. Therefore, both Barrys proceed to go back in time and make sure that they can save them. But no matter what happens, these two are always destined to die. The future Flash understands this, but the young one, due to his childish and immature behavior, refuses to accept this and keeps on trying over and over to change his outcome to no avail. While being in the multiverse dimension, we see that the young Barry keeps getting hurt, stabbed and transforming as he comes back to that dimension. Eventually, we get to learn that the monster that pushed the original Barry out of the multiverse dimension when he first gets in there is actually the young Barry, who is very old now and basically got stuck in a time loop limbo, simply because he refused to accept that his fate could never be changed, no matter how much he tried. It's a very tragic outcome if you think about it, where we learn that the protagonist of the story can never win and has to accept their fate, because otherwise, if they keep interfering with the timeline and the universes, all of this would collapse among each other. Thus, future Barry is forced to let the young Barry's universe die to the inevitable. Like I said, it's not loyal to the original comic book or the animated movie, but I found myself surprised by the clever and daring writing of this movie. It has a very weak opening, definitely, but after that, it just keeps getting better and better. And the funny part is that I got so invested into the plot that I could not notice the horrible CGI that I previously mentioned. And if that wasn't enough, they've also added a love letter to the fans. Fan service. Of course, by having both Michael Keaton and Michael Shannon returning to this movie, you would see a lot of references to previous movies and such. But what I was not expecting to see in this movie was, in my opinion, the greatest love letter to comic book fans. Remember the scene I told you about, the one with the collapsing universes? We actually see what's inside of these universes, and what I saw actually blew my mind. We got glimpses of Adam West's Batman, George Reeves' Superman, Teddy Sears' Flash, and the emotional and heartwarming appearances of Helen Slater, Supergirl, Christopher Reeve's beloved and unique Superman, and in a surprising twist of events, we get to see Nicolas Cage's cancelled concept of Superman, which I'm not going to lie, made me jump out of my seat due to my impossible to contain emotion. For those of you who don't know, this was a proof of concept for a Tim Burton's take on the Superman that got cancelled. This love letter to long DC fans is absolutely perfect. Or so I would like to say. I would say instead that it's almost perfect, and that's because I can see how this scene was a celebration of DC's history in media. However, in order to make it perfect, I would say that there was a couple of people missing. Where is John Wesley's ship's Flash? Where is Grant Gustin? Where is Henry Cavill? I know that they are showing Henry Cavill in flashbacks and all, but if we are celebrating DC's history with these characters, it feels out of place not showing at least a glimpse of him in this movie. After all, he's the one that started the DC universe. Let's say in a universe where he actually manages to have a family and becomes the Boy Scout Superman that he was meant to be in the first place. You know, as a closure to the DC extended universe. Overall, the execution of this was 99% perfect, in my opinion, and I can't say that it did not leave a huge smile on my face. But since it was 99% complete, why didn't they go for the 100%? Again, this is me nitpicking on an already great scene to begin with. Conclusion. This will not necessarily change your perspective of the movie if you did not like it to begin with, but it's my take on it because it shows that not everyone is influenced by the common opinion on the internet. After all, many internet users apply the Nickelback effect, where they hate something because it's popular to hate it, but don't really know why. In a lot of cases, their opinion is absolutely justifiable and leave a great room for discussion. I personally liked it, especially after going to watch it with my expectations set very low. What do you think? Was this video interesting to begin with? Did you like the movie? Do you agree with me or not? Did I forget to mention anything important? Let me know in the comments because I'd really like to read your opinion about it, and in an era where it is only acceptable to have a certain opinion regarding certain media, it would be good to see if you liked it or not and why. This is Juano, and thank you for watching.